All right, pull up a chair, because you're not going to believe how sideways things got when I tried to just live my quiet life. If you'd told me 8 months back that buying a so-called dream home at the end of a sleepy cul-de-sac would end with me learning more about property law and community politics than I ever wanted to, well, I probably would have laughed and gone right on digging holes for my Kentucky bluegrass. But that's not what happened. And man, the trouble started before I even had the boxes unpacked. I picked this house partly for the big backyard. Not massive, but it butted up to the community green space picture. A neat little pond trails bird song the works. No neighbor fences me in on that side. Just sky breeze and what I thought would be peace. And I'll be honest, confrontation's never really been my thing. My wife says I'd rather wrestle with a bad internet connection for a year than have one hard conversation. And she's not wrong. At first, the issues seemed so minor I almost didn't notice. Every now and then I'd see someone cutting through my yard headed to the green space. I figured, hey, maybe the lines aren't obvious or there's construction somewhere. No sweat, right? Except it wasn't just random. It was the same group again and again. Turns out they'd decided my backyard was the shortcut to paradise. The ringleader, the HOA president, let's call her Karen. And if you're picturing the haircut and the bumper stickers, congratulations, you nailed it. Karen acted like she was doing me a favor, tossing a little wave as she and her crew tromped across my grass, yelling about HOA business. She lived on the far side of the green space, a 5-minute walk if you stick to the sidewalks, but less than 2 if you cut through my property. And that's exactly what they did every day. Now, I'm the kind of person who takes pride in my lawn. Spent good money on that grass, installed irrigation flower beds, you name it. Watching it get trampled day after day, that'll raise your blood pressure. But still, I wanted to keep things neighborly. I put up a couple of those little please, keep off grass signs. They lasted a week maybe before vanishing. I replaced them. They disappeared even faster. I saw one of Karen's friends toss a sign right into the green space and laugh about it. That's when it hit me. This wasn't confusion. This was entitlement, pure and simple. Things got worse fast. The shortcut became a well-worn dirt track. My careful work gone. The day I finally tried to talk to Karen, she brushed me off. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," she said. "This is basically a public easement anyway. On my property, mind you, that I pay taxes on. We're all part of the same community," she added. "You're being selfish over a few footsteps." Selfish. That word stuck with me because what I was really asking for was respect. Instead, Karen doubled down. She started bringing her kids and their friends. Sometimes I'd look out and see a crowd of people hanging out right in my yard, like it was the park. Then came the bridge. Yeah, you heard me. One day I came home and found someone had laid plywood across my drainage ditch. No one asked, no one warned me. They just built a bridge on my land. It looked like a high school shop project gone wrong, but the message was clear. We do what we want. I marched straight to Karen's door. She barely blinked. "We thought it'd be safer than everyone jumping the ditch," she said. "You should be thanking us." When I said it needed to come out, her whole vibe changed. "Listen here," she said, all finger-pointing and attitude. "This is about community harmony. If you didn't want people walking there, you shouldn't have bought the shortcut house." The shortcut house? Like my backyard was some sort of public right-of-way. I went home fuming. My wife was even more fired up. They built something on our land without permission. That's insane. You need to do something. I figured maybe the HOA would see reason if I explained everything at the next meeting. Oh, I was naive. That meeting was a circus. Karen sat at the head of the table, board members flanking her like bodyguards. I made my case calmly. I thought about property rights and boundaries. Karen rolled her eyes loud enough for everyone to hear. One board member, Karen's neighbor I found out later, chimed in, "Shouldn't have bought the shortcut house." The audience laughed. "That's been a community path for years," someone else said. I tried to explain that it wasn't a path. It was my backyard. Karen gave a whole speech about the spirit of cooperation and how I was preventing children and elderly folks from accessing the green space safely. The room nodded along. Then they voted 4-1 in favor of making my yard an official community path. And if I tried to block it, I'd be fined by the HOA for violating harmony standards. I was stunned. My backyard voted out from under me. My wife laughed when I told her one of those not funny, angry laughs. They think they can just vote to take our property. That's when I realized I was done playing nice. I called a surveyor, scheduled a full boundary survey, and started reading up on HOA bylaws and property rights. Turns out state law was on my side. The HOA can't create an easement on private property without my written consent. They can't fine me for using my own land. And that bridge trespassing, plain and simple. Surveyor comes out team in tow, and Karen's right there watching. Just clarifying property lines, I tell her, smiling. Results came back gold. Not only was the so-called community path fully on my property, but Karen's shed was encroaching by a good 2 feet. The same Karen who'd lectured me about property obsession. I didn't say a word. Instead, I got permits for a 6-foot black aluminum privacy fence within HOA guidelines, but the kind of thing nobody could mistake for decorative. I scheduled installation for the morning of the neighborhood block party. Whole neighborhood was in the green space, Karen holding court by the grill when the fencing crew rolled up and started digging post holes. By noon, the fence cut right through the old path and looped around the part of my yard where Karen's shed sat. Karen stormed over, eyes blazing. "You can't put up a fence without board approval," she barked. I handed her the permits and the survey. "Everything's by the book," I said, cool as could be. She saw the fence wrapped around her shed and turned pale. "You can't fence off my shed." I shrugged. "I'm just fencing my property." I told her a formal notice would be coming about the encroachment. Legally, she had 30 days to move the shed or start paying me rent. By the time the crew finished, the fence stood tall with a shiny plaque, "Private property, boundary verified by survey, no trespassing." The next morning, I watched from the window as neighbors gathered at the fence, stumped. "Guess we have to go around," someone grumbled. "What a concept," I muttered into my coffee. Karen tried to claim the fence was an aesthetic violation, but all my paperwork was airtight. The shortcut was gone. My grass could finally breathe. And Karen. After getting the formal letter, she called me no more attitude, just panic. How much to move the shed I'd already checked? $3,000, or you can lease the land for $200 a month. After a day, she chose to move it. Pride wins over practicality, I guess. Here's where karma really showed up. When the dust settled, word spread about what the board had tried to do. Younger neighbors started showing up to meetings asking hard questions about the HOA's authority. A local lawyer moved in 2 streets over. He and I filed a complaint with the state HOA board. Their investigation found the board had overstepped in a big way. The vote was struck from the record, and every homeowner got a letter signed by Karen herself clarifying that private property rights couldn't be voted away. Next board election, Karen lost her presidency. The new folks focused on real issues, fixing potholes, planting trees, not stealing backyards. Karen paid for the shed move, and every time I saw those contractors out there, I smiled. She never apologized, never admitted she was wrong. She just stopped talking to me, and that was fine by me. The best part, my backyard is quiet. My flowers bloom again. The grass is lush, and nobody's marching across it except me and my wife. The fence became a landmark. New residents would hear the story how the shortcut house became the privacy fence house, and just maybe learn to respect boundaries. One afternoon, I overheard Karen telling a friend, "That fence is so dramatic." Her friend replied, "Well, maybe you shouldn't have built your shed on his property." I had to bite my tongue not to laugh. Looking back, I realized it was never really about grass or even privacy. It was about respect and the hard truth that some people won't respect you until you draw a line they can't cross. If Karen had just asked, maybe offered a little something in return, I probably would have worked something out. But she thought what she wanted was more important than what I owned and tried to strong-arm me into giving up my rights. She lost, and ironically, the neighborhood ended up better for it. People are more involved, more aware, and the HOA runs fairer than before. Here's my takeaway: sometimes being reasonable just isn't enough. Sometimes you have to build a fence and let it do the talking. My yard, my choice, my peace of mind. And that to me is justice. But let me ask you, where do you draw the line between community spirit and your right to your own land? Should neighbors ever get to vote away your property rights for their convenience? Or is there a point where standing up for yourself isn't selfish but necessary? Drop your thoughts, your stories, or the wildest HOA drama you've seen in the comments. I read them all. And hey, here's to every quiet homeowner who learns sometimes the hard way that respect is built one boundary at a time.